Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Now, let's come to an important aspect of business communication, especially the verbal and also the written. So, I call it the 3 C's of business communication. First C is correctness, the accuracy. The second C is about the conciseness. Not too much, because a business can be very big, very complex and do many things. And really, to describe everything, you may need 1,000 or 2,000 pages, and nobody will read those pages. So it has to be concise, but it also has to be clear. So the 3 C's of business communication: correctness, conciseness, clarity. Just diving a bit deeper, correctness is extremely important because the information that is shared within the company or outside the company has to be 100% accurate, or to the extent possible 100% accurate. There may always be some unknown, unintentional, accidental errors, but barring those, it has to be accurate. Others, there will be no trust, because in any aspect, if a business plan has wrong information, the internal users or the external users will lose trust. And once the trust is lost, the business plan is useless. Conciseness is very important because, as I said, large companies, you may need thousands of pages to describe what every person is doing, every factory is doing, every office is doing, every product, every geography, every customer, and so on. So it has to be concise. For big businesses, just the business plan, not all the legal annual reports, etc., maybe 10, 20, 30, 40 pages. For smaller companies, startup, etc., it may be fewer than that. A lot of the additional data can be provided as indices. But the business plan document is good to make it concise. But at the same time, the 3rd C is around clarity. The clarity has to be in terms of everybody understanding the plan. Because the business plan will go out to frontline employees who may not be as experienced or educated as the CEO. But the frontline employee, be it a salesperson or a production person or an accounting person, he needs to understand the business plan as well as probably the CEO has to, in case of a general purpose business plan. Similarly with shareholders. Because not every shareholder will be as sophisticated or educated as a CEO or a board member. So when the plan goes out to hundreds and thousands and sometimes crores of shareholders, people have to be able to understand what is being communicated. It has to be concise but also clear. Visual pictures helps. Versus very complicated tables, visual pictures of the highlights is always helpful. Big fonts, pictorial depictions, bullet points versus long paragraphs, they all help. So these are the 3 C's of business communication. They also apply when you're verbally communicating. Even when you're presenting the business plan in a meeting or a shareholder meeting, you have to say it correctly, concisely, and clearly. So both written and verbal, the 3 C's apply. Let's now try to look at how a business plan can be written. So this is a purely hypothetical case study. This company doesn't exist. Any resemblance to this business case is purely coincidental. The names, the branding, the pictures, everything is just a fictitious case just for the purpose of this course. Let's say you're developing a business plan for a high-end restaurant and you call it the Lounge Celestia. Let's try to write a business plan, a fictitious plan as a case. So you can start with the title slide and say, what is the name of the business? Let's say the name of the business is Lounge Celestia. And like we talked about branding in one of the earlier modules, it's always good to have a tagline which shows what the business is all about. And the tagline can be where culinary art. Culinary means cooking, good food. So where culinary art meets discreet luxury, which means where you have luxurious eating, fine dining, so to say. And who's presenting it? Let's say Team Celestia. And when? Maybe you're preparing and you'll present it in January of 2025. As I said, it's always good to start with a summary, an executive summary of what the business plan is all about. And in this case, this is about creating a very exclusive, very, very high dining experience for ultra high net worth individuals. These are super rich people. Let's say there are lots and lots of restaurants. There are millions of restaurants in India. There are millions across the world. But let's say this team wants to create something which is absolutely for the richest of the rich. And therefore, the concept is unparalleled. Nothing like it anywhere in the country or nothing like it anywhere in the world. So that's the concept. And then the financial plan in summary is that you need to spend a certain amount of money, in this case 15 crores upfront, to generate some revenues, which is, let's say, 35 crores in the first year. And then if you spend 15 crores, you break even, which means you recover that 15 crores in, let's say, 1 to 1.5 years or 2 years. So the summary gives you what's the proposition, what's the product, what's the business, and what is the high-level financial summary. Very clear. Very luxurious dining. You spend 15 crores and you get it back in 1.5 to 2 years. And the run rate of revenues is 35 crores starting and it keeps growing. So very clear summary. Then you start getting deeper into the market. And therefore, as I said, the market is absolutely the richest of the rich, ultra high net worth. And this is to be located in Bombay. And therefore, you create a very private, almost like a club, because club, the public cannot enter a club. A club is typically only for members. So create a club-like dining environment with very high-end luxurious experiences. And the competitive advantage is that versus maybe 10,000 restaurants or 20,000 restaurants in Bombay, this is very exclusive, the experience is very good, and the food absolutely top of the world. And the target market are people who are able to afford this kind of membership and want this kind of experience. So if that's the target market, what's the unique selling proposition? First of all is exclusivity. So it's not a public place where hundreds of people can go in and anybody can walk in. Because a lot of rich people want their privacy, they want to meet people like themselves, and they don't want to get into places where anybody can walk in. And therefore, one is exclusivity. let's say fictitiously, it needs a membership of 1 crores just to get in. And then it is only by invitation. So maybe you and I can just get into it. And it's a 20 lakh annual fee. Obviously, from the numbers, which is completely made up, I just made them up to create a business plan, it's super exclusive. Film stars, etc., rich industrialists also very conscious about the security. And therefore, it has to be high security and also private, because the famous people, a lot of times hounded by the press. And if they walk into a public place, everybody looks at them, everybody stares at them, sometimes they get disturbed. And therefore, this place should be something where they're not disturbed. They can enjoy their food and their stay and their experience. Coming to the food itself, it has to be bespoke, something which is not available anywhere, and it can be made to order. So if this one family wants something and the other family wants something else, both are very exclusive and fine, everything is available. So bespoke means made to order. And then the collector's edition, which means the rare, not anything you can go to a supermarket or a store and pick up. Something which is very rare to get. Wines and spirits and food. So that's the USP. So now we slowly get into the product and the service offerings. The food, because ultimately it's a fine dining, super fine dining, super exclusive fine dining. Okay. This is something which should be the best in the world. At that price, it should be the best in the world. And some of the best in the world are rated as per a rating called Michelin star. So it's a global rating formula of the quality of a restaurant. And a Michelin level means comparable to best in the world, anywhere in the world, in New York or London or Tokyo or anywhere. So exclusive food, and a tasting menu is something where you get a little bit of everything. It's a bit like a thali, except that this is a super rich thali. Because a thali cost 1.5 lakhs. It's a tasting menu. You get a bit of everything. And it's all absolutely special ingredients. For example, if it's a fish, it's salmon, which is not probably available anywhere in India, but it has to be flown in from North Atlantic because the fish is found there. Or an Alaskan king crab, which is not, again, not found in India. It has to be flown in from Alaska. And then the best quality saffron from Iran. And truffles. So everything is absolutely exclusive. Similarly with beverages, fineness of wine. And some of the best wines can go up to thousands of rupees per glass or per bottle. And specially made cocktails. And entertainment, because when you're eating, people would like to listen to some music, preferably live music, and preferably famous stars live music. So also throw in with the fine dining, super fine dining, some top star, big star performances. Remember, I'm just making this up to give you an idea of how to write a business plan. This probably doesn't exist. I'm just creating a business plan for a super fine dining experience. And now we get into the operational details. So first, the membership structure and benefits. You can see we have talked about it, the membership structure, the one-time fee, the annual fee, and then also the benefits that you get. You can book, you get priority reservation, so you're never refused. It's never that you want to go and there's no place. You have some private lounges where you can sit and chat either with your family or with other families. And then the location and the ambience. So Bombay is a very big city with lots of people, but it needs to be located in a premium location. Those who are familiar with Bombay, those who are from Bombay may know of such premium locations. One of the locations could be Bandra or Juhu or Lokhandwala, etc. So it's a very, very premium location, which also means that the rentals are high. The decor, which means the decoration inside, the ambience inside has to be completely high-end. With private sitting, private alcoves, so that it's not just an open space. You can actually sit with your family, with your friends in a very private area. And it could be secluded into veg, non-veg, or even Jain food. And of course, for gathering, there may be a VIP lounge. And then how do you market this super high product? It's like the Rolls Royce of fine dining, the most expensive version of fine dining. It's like a private jet versus passenger jet. Private jet is only when one family, one person, or one company uses that jet. So it's that concept in the dining space. So marketing, only invitations only. So nobody can get in unless invited. And therefore there has to be a campaign, people have to be invited. It has to be launched in style, maybe with a top star event. So, because the super rich people are super busy, they're doing a lot of things to build their business, or acting in movies, or performing, or writing books, or building a tech company, or be the global executive. So they're super busy. So to get them into a launch event has to be really special. And then a lot of retention. So continuously the people keep coming back. Because the super rich people have a lot of options. They don't only have to come to a restaurant in Bombay. They're probably flying around all the time. They could go to a restaurant in, as I said, in Switzerland, in Germany, in United Kingdom. They can go for a cruise in Arctic, Antarctic, go to China, Japan. So they have a lot of choices. And the marketing strategy needs to get them back into the restaurant. Otherwise, they will not renew after 1 or 2 or 3 years. They will not continue with this particular lounge Alicia. There has to be a retention plan. And of course, there has to be the financial projection. All of this costs money. The interior decoration costs money. Flying in food and people costs money. The whole kitchen setup to make the super exclusive dishes, veg, non-veg, Jain, different kinds of food, costs money. So there is always a startup investment. But then there's the projected revenues. Because if you're charging a 1 crore entry fee and 20 lakhs, obviously the revenues will also be high. So you can get 35 crores, which may be just 35 people signing up at 1 crore per family or per head. And then the margins, because you're spending a lot of money, on 35 crores, you may make only 10 crores, but you've already spent 15 crores upfront, plus there are certain running expenses, which may be capital in nature. And therefore, it may take 18 months, 1.5 years to 2 years to break even, which means recover your initial costs, and then you start making money. And then maybe, if Bombay is successful, you expand to Delhi. If Delhi is successful, maybe you go to Dubai. If Dubai is successful, go to Singapore. And if this concept works, from Singapore and Dubai, you may want to go to other parts of Europe, China, Japan, maybe enter US at some point in time. Because once the first location is profitable and self-funding, you can expand and scale up. But you need to create the team. Because this is high-end, quality has to be completely assured, and so on and so forth. And therefore, you need to have an operational plan. To start, because quality is extremely important. You also need the huge supplier base because you're flying in high-end beverages from France, salmon from North Atlantic, saffron from Iran, crabs from Alaska. You need a global network of suppliers who supply you the world's best ingredients. You need to have supply partners. On a daily basis, you need to make sure that the quality standards are super high, the cleanliness, the faultlessness, because at that level, failure is not an option. So if a client has ordered, a customer has ordered a particular wine, when he comes or she comes saying, we don't have that wine today, is probably not a good option. And therefore, operations has to be at the highest level. Cost of failure is very high. So in all of this, what I've tried to do is to create a fictitious case of writing a business plan. I would now encourage you to reflect for some time on a startup that you may want to do. It may be a real startup, or it may be a startup that you just think of. And I'd encourage you to write a business plan. Reflect on how you write a business plan. Reflect on it for 3 minutes, but the business plan may actually take you 1 hour, 2 hour, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, but you should definitely write a business plan. And as you write that business plan, think about everything that you've learned in the course. Starting from the first module, what is a company that you would like to set up? Its goals, its vision, its mission, its values. What would be your product? How will you build that product? How will you innovate? How will you make that product or deliver the service? How will you account for it, the financial projections? What kind of team will you have? What will be your ESG and CSR footprint? Think about what you have learned in this course, and I've just shared earlier about what your market study will look like, your competitive study. How will you create a unique value proposition for your startup? How will you sell it? How will you market it? What kind of supply chain, like we talked in this fictitious case about sourcing ingredients from around the world, the best ingredients from the different parts of the world. So what will be a supplier relationship? What does a supply chain look like? What will be your branding, your advertising, your promotions? Also, what will be your risk? What kind of information systems will you keep? And how will you start at all in terms of methodologies that I talked about, the lean startup or agile development, design thinking, etc. So to write a business plan using all the modules that you have learned in the last 11 weeks or so, and also the fictitious case that I just shared. So reflect for 3 minutes, and I strongly encourage you to write your own business plan for the next or over the next 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. So get used to thinking business. So please reflect. So this is the end of the module. Thank you. Namaskar.